Welcome to Capitalize Your Finances, the podcast that's your ultimate guide to mastering personal finances and unlocking the secrets of entrepreneurship. Each week, we dive into the world of personal finance and business development and have fascinating conversations with industry experts, seasoned entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who share their insights, strategies, and stories to help you get ahead in life. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur looking to scale your business or someone just starting out on your financial path, this podcast is your go-to resource for inspiration and actionable insights.
Welcome back to Capitalize Your Finances. As always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Panayiotou, certified financial planning professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And today we have an extremely special guest, and we're in foreign territory. We are at the Mind Pump headquarters. We've got, frankly, one of, if not the most popular financial influencer in the world, Sal Di Stefano. You're going to want to stick around for this episode because he's going to take you through his journey, which he has never done before, from a financial lens. Now, before we get into today's episode, a couple little public service announcements. Number one, if you are interested in the books, the masterclass, previous episodes, head on over to capitalizepodcast.com. That is our hub where you can get all of our content. And so without further ado, Sal, welcome to the pod.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
This is fantastic. And I was telling you before we started the show, I've been a huge fan of yours since, well, really 2015 when you guys started. And it's one of those things where I go, man, what can I ask Sal that he's never been asked before? So this is going to be really awesome. Now, I actually want to start because a lot of your listeners and my listeners are probably going, where's the parallel here? Fitness, finance. And one thing that I admire about what you and Mind Pump are doing is you are trying your best to discover and rediscover the absolute truth about fitness. Mm-hmm. And as you know, the absolute truth in everything in life is not black and white. It's tremendously gray. I'm doing the same thing in personal finance, business, entrepreneurship, investing. You guys had Jordan Peterson on and interviewed him a couple weeks ago, which we'll get into later in the show. So I think today it's going to be something really special where you've got fitness and finance merging, my passion and profession. And so the absolute truth for all of those starts today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, before we fast forward to Sal that everyone knows and all of your successes as a fitness influencer and all that fun stuff, I want to take both of our listeners down memory lane a little bit. So you said you started to become obsessed with fitness at 13 or 14. So I'm curious, what was your family's relationship with fitness?
They didn't really have a relationship. Well, so my parents were poor Sicilian immigrants. And my dad had a background in judo as a kid. So when he was a kid, he worked from the age of 9 because he couldn't afford to go to school anymore. And when he was 16, I believe, or 17, he was able to finance. Actually, he's now best friends with the guy who runs the judo school. He was able to make payments on a judo gi and do some extracurricular activity. And he did judo. So that was about the extent of the, I guess, fitness in our family.
Okay.
Now, fast forward, I'm a kid. I'm 14, very insecure about my body, skinny. This is what motivated me to work out. My dad had bought a weight set and put it in the backyard. And he did it because some of his coworkers were talking about how much weight they could lift or whatever. So he said, let me get a weight set and let me see if I can lift as much as they can or whatever. Yeah. He worked out probably a grand total of 10 times and left it alone. So we had this weight set in the backyard, probably from 12 years old. My parents wouldn't let me touch it until I was 14. By the time I turned 14, they said, fine, we'll let you work out. And then it was on my own. And I just absorbed as much information as I possibly could, reading magazines, books, watched videos, whatever. And that was the beginning of this passion.
So there wasn't a specific type of fitness. It was just all encompassing. I want to get moving, sweating, lifting, and becoming healthier.
Well, health wasn't even a part of the formula for me. I was a skinny 14-year-old kid, insecure about the way I looked. So I just wanted to get big. I just wanted to build muscle. Health didn't become a component in the formula until much later. But initially it was like most people start working out because they want to change the way that they look.
Right.
And that was me as a 14-year-old kid. And that was my main focus. Later on, I discovered through, some personal health challenges that it's health that you need to focus on.
Yeah. And we're going to get into all that later in the episode. And it's interesting you say that because as I was doing research on you, you mentioned like, hey, I'm the skinny kid. I want to look good. I want to feel jacked, all that fun stuff. Looking back though, and we've connected also on our faith, do you think there was almost like a subconscious calling that your health that you realized was really important in your late 20s when you had your health scare?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it was actually that all along and you didn't really know it?
Well, so the interesting thing about fitness, and I've said this many times on my show, is it's this incredibly powerful vehicle for personal growth.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why it's so powerful is because it's sneaky and unassuming. So you get into it because you want abs, or you want to lose weight, or you want to look good for your wedding.
Mm-hmm.
But if you stick to it long enough, you learn a lot. You learn self-acceptance, because at some point you realize you're not going to look like the guy in the magazine or the girl on social media. Yeah. You develop a relationship with pain that is appropriate. Exercise hurts. At first it's unbearable. Later on, you kind of enjoy the feeling of struggle. You develop a relationship with sucking at things, because when you first start exercises, you're just not good at them. Yeah. So you got to keep practicing in order to get better. You develop the skill of discipline, consistency. It provides a lot of meaning because you consistently have to overcome challenges while you pursue this. And then it leads to other pursuits, right? Health is a very, very large sphere that encompasses quite a bit, not just, physical fitness, but also nutrition, and then sleep, and then relationships, and then spiritual health. So if you stay on it long enough and you continue to pursue improving yourself, you end up finding yourself moving into all these other avenues, and the sphere continues to grow. So, subconsciously, I had embarked on this vehicle for personal growth, didn't know it. Yeah. Which is why I think it was so powerful.
Yeah. It's so interesting you mentioned everything that you mentioned. So on our show, we talk about the difference between planning and investing, and there's a huge misunderstanding of what that is. And with money, very similar to fitness, it's nimble. Like, it's not black and white. So you need to be very nimble within the mind. And so we've used this analogy a lot with football. So again, we're from Tacoma, Washington, 40 minutes south of Seattle. And the way I explain it is, if you've got the ball on offense, if you're playing football, you're trying to score a touchdown. Every team has its core strategy of scoring a touchdown, and they're all different. So like when we had Marshawn Lynch, back when we were like good, you would run the ball all day long. That was the core strategy. But then you surround it with like satellite strategies. Russell Wilson would run out of the backfield for an option. He'd toss it to Doug Baldwin, a deep ball to Tyler Lockett. So you got these satellite strategies around the core framework for the overall purpose of scoring a touchdown. And in money, people think that investing is that core. It's not. It's the satellite. So investments come and go, but the framework stays the same. It's no different than what you said with fitness. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, what do you bench? Or what's your 1 rep max for deadlift? Or what's your diet? And it's all very surface level, and there's no core framework. So I just thought it was a really unique parallel.
No, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
What I like to say is, if you want to create a long-term healthy relationship with exercise and nutrition and fitness and health, you really want to look at it as this multifaceted tool, like a Swiss Army knife, except every tool on that Swiss Army knife can be extremely effective. In other words, you want to mold it and modify it to improve the quality of your life, regardless of the context of your life. Yes. So there are ways to work out and eat when you have a high stress season in your life, or when your sleep isn't so good because you just had a baby, or when everything's going great and you can push your body, or, it's, you want to perform better because you're going to go on this, hike with your friends, or you're going to go on this, you decide you're going to run a marathon or whatever. You mold it and modify to improve the quality of your life, regardless of the context of your life. And now it becomes this incredible thing that that follows you and is something you can work with forever. Yeah. Versus, this is my workout, this is my diet, and now my life changes and it doesn't fit my life. And now what worked before is overtraining or undertraining or hurting me or causing me more problems, which is a lot of people run into with their exercise and nutrition in particular. Yeah. And before we keep moving on, because I've got so much I want to go over, you actually sparked a question. When it comes to, and I'm a little weird this way, I actually like when times are really tough. And again, this actually comes back to my faith.
It's when times are really good where I'm trying to look around the corner going like, okay, God, what am I missing? You know, because that's what humbles us. So for you, when it comes to professionalism or even your overall athletic fitness and nutrition, do you strive on when times are difficult, or do you just hate it like most people?
I think I'm neutral. I think difficulty produces its own challenges, and difficult literally means hard. Mm-hmm. So if it's not hard, it's not difficult, right?
Yes.
But my exercise routine and my diet become more important in difficult times. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a difference between, you know, I'm working out and I'm feeling my best and I'm trying to hit a new PR in a lift, or I'm trying to, you know, sculpt my body or whatever. Versus, man, I'm overwhelmed and I need this to make me feel better, or I need to nourish my body with nutrition because I'm dealing with this struggle or this challenge. It just becomes more important. It becomes more important because it's more valuable at that time. So my relationship, I guess, with it changes. Do I necessarily enjoy it or look forward to it? I don't know, but it's definitely that what my wife would call type 2 fun, where, you know, afterwards I look back and I go, wow, I'm really grateful for it. But I'd be lying if I said in those tough moments, I wasn't like, this sucks. This is hard.
Yeah. I won't poll any of your employees to see if they say the same thing.
Yeah, right.
You, okay.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of like difficulty and positivity, I actually want to fast forward a little bit to your first job at 24 Hour Fitness. Mm-hmm. So, and if I remember correctly, you started out as a personal trainer at 18, and with no shocker, you quickly became one of the best sellers. Okay. Or best performing personal trainers. So I've got a couple business questions for you.
Sure.
What were some of the strategies you used to build your client base?
So right out the gates, and I started at 18 because that was the cutoff. I couldn't start any earlier. I wanted to be a trainer sooner, but as soon as I turned 18, I walked in, asked for the manager right at the front desk. Sean Winters walks out. I still remember his name.
What a name.
Yeah, I know. And I know it sounds like I made it up, but he walks out and I give him a firm handshake and I'd like to work here. What do I need to do in order to be a trainer here? I think he liked the attitude. And they hired me on the spot. What made me successful early on, I was quite naive, but I was very passionate, enthusiastic, and genuine.
Yeah.
So when I was talking to people, I think they could feel like I really love this and I really wanted to help them. You know, my two passions in life are fitness and people. I love people. I just love talking to people. I love asking questions. I find people fascinating.
Yeah.
So it was this perfect blend. So right away, it worked. I can be very convincing. I think I can present myself in a charismatic way. I'm not afraid to approach people. But I think what they sensed was, because I didn't know much for sure, but I was genuine and passionate. And I communicate this now to trainers and coaches that listen to my show. If you want to be effective as a trainer and a coach, one of the best things you could do is be vulnerable and real, because a person who trusts their trainer is going to follow their guidance. Yeah. A person who admires a trainer, who thinks they're cool, but doesn't necessarily trust them, you're not going to be very effective. Yeah. So I think that's what I communicated right out the gates. And I remember my first day, so I got hired, I think it was a day or two later, I walk in and I was supposed to follow this trainer. So Sean hooked me up with their top trainer. I don't remember the guy's name. I remember he had long hair. Okay. And he said, follow him along and kind of watch what he does. This is your first day of training. And the gym used to do what are called Fit Start appointments. So Fit Start appointment was you become a member. This is back in 1997, back when 24 Hour Fitness, right when they merged with Family Fitness. So they went from Nautilus to Fitness. And those early days, by the way, 24 Hour Fitness really wrote the book on how to build a successful gym business. Now you look at 24 Hour Fitness, it's not the same. But back then they were writing the book. So I was surrounded by incredible people and systems and all that. So anyway, I mirror this trainer. He goes through 3 fit appointments and I watch what he does. And so what he did is he put them on 3 pieces of machinery. Then he took them back, asked them some questions, asked them if they wanted personal training. They said no, and they left. He had 2 appointments left in the day. Now this guy sees this kid who's following him. I'm super like, yeah, what do I need to do type of deal. So he thought to himself like, cool, I'm going to leave early. So he says, hey, Sal, do you want to take the next 2? I'm just going to take off. I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They became my clients. Those 2 people became my clients. I remember he came in the next day and he looked up on the board, and I'll never forget the first person. It was this kid. He comes in, and I sit him down, ask him questions, and right away he's like, my mom's out in the car. Can I go get her? I said, absolutely, go get her. Brings her in, sign him up on the spot. I didn't know how to sign anybody up. In fact, I didn't even know what the prices were. I remember I walked into the front office where the general manager was, and I said, what was her name? Kelly? And I said, no, Darcy. Darcy was her name. And I said, Darcy.
Sorry, Kelly.
Yeah, no problem. I said, Darcy. People want to sign up at the desk. I have someone who wants to sign up. She goes, what? What package? I said, I don't know what the packages are. They just want to sign up. She's like, kind of rolled her eyes. Show them this. So she gives me this like placard with prices on it.
Yeah.
So I walk out there, 30 sessions. Come back. Darcy, they want to get 30 sessions. What? Okay. So she walks out. She fills it out. She goes up to the board, writes my name, and writes the total because we had a board with whatever. Yeah. I did that again, second time around. That trainer comes in the next day, and this is one of my favorite moments or memories. He comes in, he looks up at the board, and he goes, what? You got 2 clients? I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, man, you got laydowns. You had 2 laydowns, just walked in. That's my luck, basically. I left, and then
of course
2, whatever. No problem. That day, I signed up, I think, 3 more people. By the 3rd day, I had outsold what he'd done all month, and I had become the top trainer of the club, and then that was it. I was just
you took off.
Just crushing it.
Yeah.
Became a fitness manager, general manager, and just it was the first time in my life I had done something. You've probably felt this doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Where you step into something and you immediately are like, oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is 100% what I'm supposed to do.
Oh yeah.
And that was the very beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting trying to describe that feeling to people that have never had it. And you know what? That life that you and I have chosen, it's not for everyone. Mm-hmm. So I respect that. But it's interesting when you talk to people that they think they want that life, and then you're describing that gut feeling of how fired up. I don't know how you felt when you first closed your couple personal training clients. I remember the first couple clients I had, I was renting a makeshift kitchen for an office. I'd shake the hands and all that. I would go in my office and it was like Ray Lewis just came out of the tunnel. I'm throwing papers around, like I'm hyped.
Yeah.
And when you describe that to people and they've never been, they look at you like you're crazy, which we are.
Yeah.
But that's what gets you to the top.
Oh, Chris, I went to work every single day, bell to bell, day one.
Yeah.
I showed up. I didn't want to leave. I loved it. It was the best. It was just, and I felt that feeling maybe a couple of the times in my life. The other time I felt it was when I first became a general manager and I gave my first all staff meeting, which I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story. I had Mark Masteroff, the founder, I actually had to convince him to give me a gym to run because I was so young.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to hear that story. That's a whole nother hilarious.
We might get into this.
So
yeah.
Mark's a great guy, by the way. If you haven't had on the show, he's amazing. You'd want to talk to him. He's the
Mark,
first,
I'd love to have you on the show. No pressure, but Sal just called you out.
He's the first billionaire in the gym industry. So, and he's an absolute genius. But
yeah.
As an assistant manager back when I was moving up and I was, number one on the, the performance chart or report that we would get. Just to give you an example. My commissionable sales were 43 or 46 or $48,000. Second place was 21, 22.
Oh yeah.
So Mark walks in, and my manager comes up and goes, "Mark Masteroff's downstairs, and he wants you to give him a tour." He's like the founder of
yeah,
and I'm
the
like,
Godfather.
Yeah, I'm like, cool. So I go down and give him a tour, sit him down. He's like, "Look, man, I love what you're doing. I love how you're presenting. It makes sense now, why or whatever." He's giving me accolades. And then I said, "Give me a gym." And he said, remember, this was naive. I was naive. I was 19. So I was a little forward.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Give me a club. I'll run a club." And he goes, "You're a kid, you're young. Like, I don't know if it's a big responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a good job, stick to it," type of deal. And I said, "Mark, just tell me what I need to do to get a club. Give me a number. Tell me what to do." And I think he liked hearing that. Yeah. I mean, I would love hearing that as a manager, right?
Of course.
So what he said, you just need to kill everybody in the company for a little while. And so I did. And I remember I would message, I would send messages to him every time it happened. "Give me a club. Anyway, so he gave me a club. And the second time I felt like this is what I was supposed to do, I had an all staff meeting, 30 people show up, this tiny club. And I remember standing up on a desk and giving this meeting to everybody. And I had that feeling again, like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
It's like Gladiator.
Are you not entertained? Oh, it was great. And then the third time was the first time we shot. The first time I was on camera. The first time I was selling or presenting Doug and I had created our first digital fitness program.
Yes.
And then I remember when we turned the camera on and I did my thing, I felt that feeling again. So those are the 3 times. But yeah, when you have that feeling, it's less a choice and more like there's no choice. I have to do this.
There is no choice. Well, and like I remember I was on I don't go anymore because we have a gym in our garage now, but the local YMCA, I was on an advisory board. And my day for the first 2 years was very simple. I would get up at 4:15. I would be at the gym at 4:45, clanging and banging. I would be at my office, the kitchen, by 6. I would research for 2 hours. And then basically from 8 till 5:30 meetings, go to a networking event, 6 a week. And then I would come home, I would come back to the office, and I had this globe that was powered by solar. So until it stopped moving, I told myself, I'm not done. And then I would take my conference room chairs, and that would be my makeshift bed for basically 6 days a week. Yeah. And then that Sunday I'd come home because I wouldn't work on Sundays, but I'd still research.
You know what's interesting about what you're saying?
Yeah.
And I think the same energies, you could feel it when I'm saying it. We're talking about all this work and the struggle and, whatever, but it's like these most fond memories. And
they're
I think
the best.
That's very telling, right?
Yes.
Very telling that I think that this is what I try to teach people through fitness, or when I would train coaches and trainers or gym managers, was find a way to love this struggle. And you can do this. You can figure out a way to love it. And there is a process.
Yes.
But if you can start to love the journey, I mean, then goals hit themselves, destinations are reached on their own, and you continue to go. But if you start to fall in love with the process, it's the process that produces.
Yes.
That's the key right there.
But it's a lot easier to say that looking back.
Of course.
And that's like the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, so when I wrote my first book, I did not enjoy the writing process like I should have, which I'm going to give a little public service announcement later on in the show, which I have not released yet. But the second time around, I decided every time I sat down, I'm going to enjoy this because you know what's coming. Mm-hmm. So it's so easy for us to say that. Meanwhile, you've got some kid out there who's wanting to become a personal trainer, basically a sniff, cough, and fart away from being homeless because that's what it is. You're like, just enjoy it. But it is. You have to be sick in the mind. And then people will come to you and go, well, what do you do for fun?
Yeah. But here's the thing. It's like a marriage.
Yes.
People sit around waiting for that feeling to happen. Like, for example, people I love your spouse, right? It's like, well, sometimes I don't like my spouse. Sometimes I don't feel that. Like I have kids. I have 4 kids. Sometimes I don't like them either. Mm-hmm. But the love is an action. You choose it, right?
Yes.
You choose the action. So it's a skill that you develop. So I don't mean love the struggle like it's going to happen. Like, What do you mean? I don't like this. I don't love this. This is hard. No. It's a skill that you have to focus on and develop and find ways to love the process. That's what I mean. So no, it's not going to come natural.
No,
that's not what I'm talking about.
No. And I totally get that. Well, go back to Sean, because Sean was obviously an influential figure in your early days. So he was a key player. Were there any other key players, and what were the best traits that you took from them? Yeah.
So Sean, I didn't learn a ton from Sean. Sorry, Sean.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. I still know, but I didn't work very long for him. Within 4 months, I was, managing the fitness department. He went somewhere else.
Got it.
Don Cardona, good friend of mine.
What a name.
Still talk to him. He was a general manager that then came to the club shortly after I became a fitness manager. And he was, at the time, I was 18, so he's probably 24. So he was, at the time, the youngest general manager, I believe, in the company. And he was my first mentor.
Got it.
And Don, I'll tell you a story about Don. Here's how Don and I, really became friends, okay?
Okay.
When he first came to the club, at the time I'd been the fitness manager, I would want to say for 3-4 months, it was time to start college. I was going to go to school for physical therapy, and I was already looking at my paychecks, and I'm making 6 figures, in the gym, loving it. And I'm like, I'm going to go become a physical therapist. They don't make this much out of school. Do I even want to do that clinical setting type of deal? My parents, though, very much like, you got to go to school, you got to go to college type of deal. Talked to Don. Said, Don, I think I got to go back to school and kind of step down. Don's like, I mean, have you seen your paychecks? I said, yeah. And he goes, you're already making more. That doesn't make any sense. Don't you love this? I said, yes, I do. And he goes, let me come over to your house, talk to your parents. So I said, okay. Invited Don to my house for dinner. So here he's talking to my Sicilian parents.
Yeah. And how old are you again?
18.
Okay.
So Don comes in and does basically a sales presentation to my parents, right? He shows them his paycheck, my paycheck, this and that. Here's what he's doing. Here's his talent, whatever. So, and my parents could see that I was passionate about this. Yeah. So my parents said, okay, let's give this a year. And at the end of the year, if you change your mind, whatever. And I said, yeah, done deal.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of my relationship with Don, but this is when we first became close. He immediately, I wanted to move from fitness to sales. So back in those days in the gym, there were 2 avenues you could go. Fitness, which was trainer, fitness manager, and I think the position above that was district fitness manager, and that was it.
Okay.
Sales is where you could go.
Right.
Sales, weekend manager, assistant general manager, district manager, vice president, president. Like you could go all the way up.
Yeah.
So he said, like, what do you want to do? And I said, the sky's the limit. Like, I want to keep doing this. He goes, okay, you're going to have to move over to sales. And back then they never took people from the fitness side and moved them into the sales side. They just didn't do that. They didn't take you as a fitness manager and immediately make you a general manager. They just didn't do that. They said, no, you got to start over.
Okay.
Type of deal. But because I was performing the way I was, they said, we'll let you run the weekends. We'll let you be the weekend general manager, essentially. So I said, cool, let's do this. So my first weekend's coming up. And it just so happens that we have this region-wide contest. So at the time, our vice president, John Romeo, another great fitness influence, he's now big franchise owner of Crunch Fitness and a bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
He was the vice president. He put together this regional sales competition for the weekend managers. Whoever wins gets $500 cash or something like that. So I'm like, I am going to win. Like, there's no way that I'm going to lose. It's my first weekend. Yeah. I'm going to show everybody that this is what I'm going to do. So weekend comes up. Back then, this is before we had widespread internet. So it's 97 or 98. The way that you would send in your numbers to your managers was through fax. And so in order for me to know, this is kind of funny, for me to know what the other clubs in my region were doing,
okay,
I'd have to call their front desk, get their numbers, but they're not going to give the weekend manager from the other. Everybody wanted to keep it a secret.
Right.
If they knew you were trying.
I get that.
So I'd call in, pretend like I was this other manager, fax me. So I was getting updates on all the other clubs. Faxes are coming in. I'm crushing or whatever.
Yeah.
Saturday, I blow everybody out and I have to win both days. Sunday comes up and it's my club. And I don't remember what the other club was. I want to say Mountain View. So I'm in San Jose and we're like neck and neck, but I'm leading. So I'm looking at the clock. The book's shut down at 10 p.m. Theoretically, you can open until midnight. Keep them open until midnight, but my front desk was going to leave anyway, so I wouldn't be able to do anything. So I'm watching the numbers. I'm like, I'm winning, barely ahead. 9 p.m. or something like 8:45, Mountain View pulls ahead. So I'm like, oh, I got to win this, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hustling, trying to work the floor, talk to people about fitness. I'm doing my thing. I see this family walking in from the parking lot, and you could tell they weren't members. Like they were walking in street clothes. It was, mom, dad, 2 kids. And I'm like, this is a family membership. Like this could put me over. Right.
Yeah.
So they walk in and I do my whole thing, ask them their questions, fitness questions.
Yes.
I'm giving them a tour, showing them equipment, bring them back to the desk. We get into conversation about membership. The gentleman, the dad was trying to negotiate with me. We're going back and forth. Almost going to get the sale. It's going to be a 3-year prepaid membership of personal training, whatever. Last minute, he's like, look, I'm going to have to think about this. We'll come back tomorrow type of deal. And I mean, this is after we've been talking now for almost an hour,
right,
which is a very long gym presentation. They don't typically take that long.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hold on. He's getting up, right? At this point, he's standing up. No, we're going to leave. I'm sorry, whatever. I'm like, hold on one second. And wait, you won't want to miss this. And I run out to the workout floor. This month in the club, we had a giveaway where so every month there was some kind of promotion that we would put together. This month's promotion was a full gas barbecue set with accessories. And what we did is we put it in the middle of the workout floor. Yeah. We had balloons on it. And every time you worked out, you would fill out an entry form. So every workout meant you could have a better chance of winning.
Yep.
So I run out there, rip off the balloons, and I wheel this barbecue into the front office. And I'm like, if you sign up today, I'll give you this barbecue. So he's like, done. He signs up. Walks out. I win the contest. Boom. First place, champion. Don shows up to work. Congratulations, kick ass. Nobody notices the barbecue's gone all day long.
Yeah.
So I'm like, whatever. 5 p.m. or so, I'm at the front desk, and here comes a truck pull up. It's the guy that I signed up yesterday with the barbecue in the back. I'm sweating. I'm like, oh, crap. Why is the barbecue back? Why is he bringing the barbecue back? He walks in and he goes, it's not working. Something's wrong with it or whatever. So I'm like, and I turn around. Don's right behind me. And my manager, Don goes, what barbecue? He goes, oh, the one that I got yesterday for signing up. And he looks at it, walks out to the workout floor, realizes you gave away the barbecue.
Yeah.
Walks back in, says, Sal, can you go wait for me in my office? Yes. So I go and I sit down. Don handles the situation, comes back in the office, and he goes, look, I love your energy, your enthusiasm.
Uh-huh.
You're young. You obviously don't know how things are done around here. I prefer somebody I need to pull back than somebody I need to kick in the butt. Mm-hmm. So I like your style. Yeah. Don't ever do something stupid like that. And Don and I became best friends.
Yeah.
And he became one of he was my first mentor. And that's how we became friends, is he didn't fire me.
That is
for giving away the barbecue.
Awesome story. That is an awesome story. Well, and you mentioned sales. So as a GM, obviously with that leveling up, and you just basically layered it in perfectly earlier. Mm-hmm. It's another world, right? It's one thing to, you're training a couple clients, but as you're a general manager, 24-hour fitness, especially at the time. So, with sales, I want to start there. And my listeners know I love sales. Yeah. And this is actually the public service announcement. So my second book, Capitalize Your Sales, comes out later this year.
All right, good deal.
And so I love hearing sales strategies from people. And so from your perspective, what were some of the best sales strategies you learned in the GM role? Yeah,
well,
other than the barbecue.
I'll challenge anybody right now to what I'm about to say. One of the best environments for developing razor sharp, fast, effective sales skills is the gym. And here's why. The sales process is fast. Okay. Mm-hmm. You meet somebody and you tour them, you ask them questions, you present membership, you're selling a dream. I'm not selling a product. You don't leave with anything. You leave with an idea. You get access to my gym. Yeah. Why am I going to sign up here versus someone else? And I see in a busy gym, 5, 10, 15 people a day. Right. So you are practicing. So I have friends now that are multimillionaires in real estate, in finance, in investment, in tech sales. They all learned in the gym. These are all people that I grew up with in the gym. And they all say that taught me everything, because a year in the gym was thousands and thousands of practice opportunities at trying to sell. So it's this incredible environment. All right, what are the keys with it? First off, I'll say this about sales. Because some people, when they hear the word sales, it's like a dirty word, especially fitness, trainers. If I say you need to get better at sales, I just want to help people. Sales, all sales is effective communication. Yes, that's it. If this was the Matrix and I could plug my brain into yours, and you knew what I knew about fitness, I wouldn't have to sell you on why you need to hire a trainer or why you should become a member or why you should work out. But we don't have that. We have words. So. And by the way, good sales is with integrity. The most effective salespeople in the world don't lie. And I think a lot of people confuse the two. No. You have to be honest, but you have to be effective. How can I get you to understand what I know? Mm-hmm. And the way that I do that is, one, ask the right questions, overcome the objections before they occur. And the way you do that is you help get the person out of their own way. Mm-hmm. Okay. So in the fitness context, I'll give you an example. One of the ways that people will get in their own way is that they'll come in, they're thinking about working out or whatever, and then they'll decide at the end, I don't know if I have enough time. I don't know if I'll be able to do this. Yeah. Okay, so here's an easy way to fix that before that even happens. I'll ask you, how many days a week can you realistically commit to working out for the rest of your life? Realistically. I don't care what your answer is, by the way. There's no wrong answer. It's more than what you're doing now. Mm-hmm. So if you say to me 1 day a week, no problem. We will figure out a workout program that will dramatically improve your health and fitness 1 day a week. Now, later you can add more, but there's a lot we can do in 1 day a week, definitely more than we're doing now with 0 days a week. You know what you're not going to say to me at the end of my presentation? I don't know if I have time to work out. You've already told me. Yeah. You have a day a week that you show up. Yes. Another one, you show up and I can ask you something like, I found through years of working with people that the most successful people, as defined by sustainable results, they get fit and they stay fit, they have a support system. They have friends or family or a group or somebody that supports them in their endeavor to improve their health. Do you have someone like that?
Yes.
And then you would say something like, my wife is really supportive. And I'd say, that's great. Well, guess what's probably not going to come up at the end of my presentation? I need to go ask my wife. You've already told me she's supportive. A lot of this is fitness. A lot of the reasons why people want to get started and then stop is not really because of the reasons they're telling you. It's because they can't take that first step, and it's them. They're getting their own way.
Yes.
So effectively communicating in this context is getting you to get out of your own way, getting you to make that decision on your own. And all I'm doing is guiding you. That's effective communication. I use that on my podcast all the time. I'm selling people every damn time I do this podcast. I'm not selling them a product.
Yeah.
I'm selling them on how they have to change fundamental behaviors to improve their health. Diet, your diet is a part of who you are. Activity, that's something that you do or don't do every single day. Your lifestyle, that's your life. How can I convince you to change something fundamental about yourself or your life in a permanent way? I have to be able to sell it effectively, not in a cheap way, but in a way that sticks and makes sense to you. And that's sales. That's all it is. It's just effective communication.
Well, and I want to switch gears a little bit to the marketing side of things. Now, it's different working for a company like 24 Hour Fitness back in the day because marketing's kind of already built in.
Yes.
So did you just kind of take that and run with it? Or did you get creative on your own right with your, prepubescent testosterone energy that you had?
Yeah, no. The starting the conversation is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Fitness in particular is difficult because walking up to someone and saying, hey, do you want to work out or whatever, people can take it the wrong way. Are you trying to say that I'm out of shape? Like, what's the deal type of deal? So you have to just figure out ways to break the ice. One of my favorite ways to do it, this is how I teach trainers and coaches, is you set yourself up in a busy area. So it could be in front of a grocery store, front of another business, and you set up a body fat testing booth. But the way you do it is you have a big placard and it says something like, find out if your body fat is healthy or unhealthy in 30 seconds. And then you have, for men, you have the different ranges. Women, you have the different ranges.
Yep.
You have your calipers, and then people test your body fat with you. And you use calipers, and then while you're doing it, you ask them questions and talk about health and fitness, and you just open the door. Yeah. And then from there, setting up an appointment to meet with me so that I can get more information and I can give you some more individualized advice is easy. And then when you show up to that, well, now I could talk to you about the value that I can do, that I could provide to you if you hired me. Yeah. But that's the hardest part, is that initial. Once you get past that initial part, it's easy.
Oh yeah, it's game over. Yeah. Well, it's like the hook, line, and sinker of trust.
Yes,
that's all it is.
Yes.
Well, and you had this unique situation where clearly you're on the fast track to greatness, and you could have not put it in neutral, but for the purpose of this description, basically put the career path in neutral and kept climbing that corporate ladder of 24 Hour. But you had the suicidal entrepreneur bug that you and I both have.
Yeah.
Okay, for better or worse. So, and you didn't just spin off and do personal training. For my research, you were kind of an all-in-one stop with like massage, acupuncture, nutrition. So I have a few questions about that time in your life. So the first one is, what made you want to diversify into all these other avenues of overall health and wellness?
Yeah, well, I left corporate fitness because I saw the direction of the fitness industry, and it was or the gym industry. And it was very frustrating.
And when was that again?
Oh, God, 2000. Might have been around 2000. Yeah, probably about 3 years later.
Okay.
So either 99 or 2000.
Yeah.
I left because, just give you some context. In 1997 or 98, an all club membership at 24 Hour Fitness, which meant you had access to 170 clubs, I think.
Got it.
Was $350 to join, $49 processing fee, $45 a month. Okay. 1997 or 98.
Yeah.
Okay, that's expensive. By the way, that's not even control. That's not even inflation adjusted.
Yeah, no,
okay? $45 a month now is like $1,000 a month. Yeah. No, all joking aside, it's not controlled for inflation. That's expensive. Now, what happened? The gym industry went down the tubes. What they started to realize, and I remember there was a meeting we had. This was the beginning of the end for me. Yeah. We had a meeting, and we had a gentleman come in. There were investors that had come into 24 Hour Fitness, and they were presenting to the top management staff or whatever. And they were showing us the most profitable members that we had and the ones that lose us money. The ones that lost us money were the ones that worked out 3 or more days a week in the gym. They use the equipment, they wear it down, they pay their monthly dues.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The ones that were most profitable were the ones that paid and didn't show up.
Yeah.
That's when the writing was on the wall. That doesn't sound good to me. I don't like that.
Right.
Like, I want people to improve their health and fitness. I'm not just trying to sell a membership.
Yes.
And now what happened? Look at the gym model now. The gym model now literally is charge a price that's so cheap people won't cancel because they're like, I'm only paying $9 a month.
Yeah.
But so charge a membership fee that's so cheap that people won't cancel, but they don't show up.
Yeah.
Attract those members. Attract those members.
Right.
If everybody showed up at Planet Fitness, they'd have to shut their doors. They couldn't support the members they have.
No.
A huge percentage of the members just pay monthly, and then they give away free pizza once a week, and then they justify by, yeah, we get pizza once a week if I want or whatever, and I'll just keep my membership. That, when I saw that, I was like, I don't like this. And then I had another meeting with the investors who came in. I'll never forget this. They said, we have more clubs than anybody. We got great equipment. We don't need a sales presentation. All we need is a chart with the prices. People will sign up because we're the best. I knew in the gym, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
This is an idea. It requires communication. It requires guidance. Nobody just comes in and looks at equipment. Only hardcore fitness fanatics do that. Nobody else does that. So I got frustrated. And I remember the last straw on the camel's back was I grand opened a location here in San Jose. My district manager, who nobody respected, literally he'd walk in and crap everybody out, which was always already frustrating. My boss, when your boss sucks, very frustrating.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurs can't deal with that.
Yeah,
It's
it doesn't sound great.
No.
Yeah,
So I'm like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
So I remember he told us to highlight. We had this master appointment book for trainers for appointments. Yeah. He had this color coding system. Pink meant this, red meant this, green. And you had to fill in the whole freaking. Anyway, it's this huge book. And the highlighters were bleeding through. And it was just like we had to buy new highlighters. So I told my front desk staff, I said, instead of coloring in the whole damn page, just underline it. Just underline it so we're not wasting markers and whatever. Anyway, he walks in, looks at my master appointment book. Granted, keep in mind, I'm one of the top clubs in the company at the same time.
Yeah.
He sees this, walks in my office, calls me in, writes me up for not filling in each line fully with the marker. And I quit. I quit the very next day.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was the last straw.
Yeah. That would break the camel's back. And you didn't say anything on the way out.
No, there was another time I left where I left in a blaze of glory. That's a whole nother story.
I'm just thinking, I mean, the Italian, Sicilian in you
That was
tell
the first time I
Sicilian
left.
not to snap.
No, first time I left, it wasn't good.
Okay.
That's a whole nother.
Yeah, we'll keep that one for an off the air conversation.
Yeah,
okay?
but so there were 2 times, 2 stints, short ones. But yeah, that time I quit. I said I can't do this. I don't like the direction of the company. I don't like the management style, and I want to go do this on my own.
So when you did that, so go back to that then. So what made you decide to do the all-in-one? And the reason why I ask that is looking back, and I don't know if you see this in fitness. I see this in finance all the time. So diversification is important, but it's not nearly as important as what people think. I think it's actually grotesquely overblown. We actually just recorded an episode of why diversification is a lot more useless than people imagine. But for a business, I get it if there's synergies, but there's a balancing act. So looking back, do you think it would have been a better business move for you to pick 1 or 2 lanes and then pick other strategic partners to refer into your core business? Or were you glad looking back that you had all of these different avenues for holistic fitness?
I'm very, very proud that I went in that direction. That was very uncommon back in those days. So we're talking
incredibly 15
years ago or so. At that time I was a meathead trainer. In other words, I understood, proteins, fats, and carbs. I knew strength training. I knew cardio. I had no understanding of wellness, no understanding of hormone health, no understanding of anything else. It was all just workout. Okay.
Yes.
But I had a deep passion for people and my clients. And I saw that the best results that my clients had gotten were the ones that had worked with other modalities alongside with me. These were clients that also worked with a therapist to work with their, let's say, dysfunctional eating patterns that then I would work with as well. Or they worked with an acupuncturist in combination with my correctional exercise, and their pain got better much faster, or they worked with a hormone specialist. So I saw that those people, not only did they get the best results, but they were the most consistent. They were the ones that kept staying with me and wanted to keep going because they never hit these walls where they couldn't figure out what was going on. So I saw the value. So when I opened up my studio, I didn't understand the other modalities. I didn't use them myself, to be quite honest. Like I said, I was a meathead trainer. I didn't figure that out until I had my own health issues.
Yep.
But I knew that there was value. So I wanted an acupuncturist. I wanted somebody who could do correctional exercise beyond what I could do, who understood, gut health, hormone health. I wanted a body work specialist so they could help with people who had pain or movement issues.
Yeah.
I wanted modalities that I saw, chiropractic, for example. I wanted modalities that I saw the value within, when I would train people. And that's what we had. And there's this belief, I'm sure this exists in other businesses, but with trainers, there's this crazy scarcity mindset where it's like, well, if you're working with me, I don't want you spending money on this other person too, because then you're gonna have less money to invest with me or whatever. I didn't see that. Instead, what I saw was client would work with me, then they'd work with my bodywork specialist, then they'd work with my gut health specialist. They were the ones that stayed. They stayed. They stayed a long time, and they got phenomenal, life-changing, forever results.
Yes.
So my theory was definitely proven correct. Like this is the way to do it. This is the best way to do it, was this holistic approach. But yeah, it wasn't very common back then.
So to clarify, everyone was under your LLC basically, or your umbrella.
They did not work for me. They paid me rent.
Okay, that's where I was getting at.
Yeah, no, they paid me rent. So I rented the studio. Obviously the studio's mine, the business is mine.
Got it.
They would pay me a fee to use an office or rent space in the facility, but the idea was that we work together.
Smart. Okay. Because as you were explaining that until just now, I'm thinking, oh, that's like a true concierge service.
No,
it had the allure of that.
Correct.
To the consumer. Yeah, man. Smart cookie, man.
Yeah. Well, it would have been a lot of work to do it the other way, I think. And maybe I would have moved in that direction eventually. I don't know, but
yeah.
But no, I wanted people who were self-motivated, entrepreneur-minded, pro-growth, but also wanting to work together with a team. And I thought, look, if you're going to rent a space here, you're trying to build your business.
Yes.
I'm going to attract a different person than just an employee.
Capitalizers, this episode is sponsored by the best-selling book, Capitalize Your Finances, the how-to framework that takes you from compoundingly clueless to monetarily magnificent. Regardless of where you're at in your financial life, whether you're just beginning to express interest and commitment to your personal finances, at the pinnacle of your career, winding down into retirement, or thinking about your legacy for future generations, this book walks you through every step of the way so you can succeed on your terms and with your own values and passions guiding you. After reading this book, you will officially have Christopher A. Panayotu, the Cap in Capitalize, in your back pocket, guiding you in detail through every step of the way so that you can take charge of your finances, not the other way around. Head on over to Amazon.com today and start capitalizing your finances to the fullest with this incredible book, Capitalize Your Finances, the how-to financial framework that takes you from compoundingly clueless to monetarily magnificent. And now, back to the episode.
Yeah, that's a really good balance and blend. Because like in our industry, you see, especially like the huge firms, okay? Because I worked on the Wall Street firms, and as you've probably put two and two together, Wall Street and we don't mix, okay? Yeah. And so they tried to do everything under the sun: financial planners, attorneys, CPAs, bankers, mortgage brokers. And it's like, okay, but in my mind, if you have a fiduciary duty and one of them screw up, you're not going to fire yourself. Mm-hmm. But with what you did, you kind of blended everything under the sun, where we're all our independent people, but we're so committed to each other.
That's right.
In our beliefs. We're in one. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. We tried doing that, and then compliance got in the way, but that's another off-air.
You're in a very regulated space.
A little bit, yeah, which is funny because every time we do shows, my compliance people, for the almost 2 hours that this show is going to go on, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, what's Chris going to say? Yeah, I love it, But what were some of your best takeaways from that business experience?
Well, it was an incredible learning experience for me because it was a small studio, mm-hmm. and I learn a lot through observation and through being around, other modalities or other methods. And so I got to learn from the best physical therapist I've ever met. I got to learn about gut health and hormone health and body work because we worked in the same space.
Yeah.
And I would listen and hear, and we would share clients, and I would ask questions. And so I had, 15 years of just growth. I mean, what you hear on my podcast, the voice you hear, the way I communicate health and fitness was developed during that period. And no small part was definitely developed from learning from these people that I got to work with. So I understood gut health. Now that's everybody talks about gut health. 15 years ago, nobody talked about leaky gut syndrome. People would laugh at you if they were in the medical space. Yeah. They'd laugh you out of the room. Mm-hmm. I had somebody in there who was on the cutting edge who talked about leaky gut syndrome. By the way, now is referred to in the medical establishment now calls it intestinal wall hyperpermeability, right? Now they're like, oh, it's real.
Yeah.
But back then they're like, that's baloney.
Yeah.
Well, I got to learn it. I got to learn about what it was, what caused it, how it affected people's health and posture and mood. I got to learn about sleep and how it affected hormones, body work, and how that releases emotions, and meditation and acupuncture and the meridians, and just because I was working with these incredible people. Yeah. And so now I didn't know I was going to have a podcast, but now that I have a podcast, like I can talk about all these things and I have some experience with them. Yeah. So it was great.
Well, and I don't know if I told you this, I may have. So I've had Crohn's since I was 4 years old. So gut health is obviously a big deal. Yeah. You talk about people laughing. I mean, in 8th grade, that was one of the darkest moments in you get through puberty. That's tough for everyone, but you can't sit through a class without having to go to the bathroom. Everyone's laughing at you. And that's actually how just a quick tangent, got committed to fitness. I said, I'm either going to die trying or I will be healthy. And then I took that mental model of fitness success and bodybuilding, and then I brought that into business and then investing and planning and my courses and all that. So yeah, there's a lot of synergies there. And I think it's awesome that you were so far ahead, because look at what you've built now. Like I told you before, you guys have gifted me all of this content for free, indirectly, indirectly. I mean, my gut's fantastic. I've been in remission for 11 years. So in a roundabout way, thank you for that.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Now, life was seemingly firing on all cylinders for you until about 28 when you had a health issue. Yeah. Right. And so I would actually say, because a lot of people go, that took a negative turn. I would say that positively, that was a gifting of a wake-up call.
Of course it was.
And so if you're comfortable sharing what happened, and then looking back, do you think that was due to the over-intensity of training and supplementation? Or do you think it was all those things on top of the pursuit of running a successful business to the highest degree?
Oh, I mean, so, all right, let's take a step back. So at this time, working with clients, valuing these other modalities for my clients, not applying them or valuing them for myself. And you'll find this often with really good trainers or experienced trainers and coaches. Mm-hmm. They're better with their clients than they are with themselves. Okay. Yeah. And that was me. So I overtrained. I used over-the-counter designer steroids. At the time, you could buy them over the counter. Yep. I wasn't very good to my health. I was still very much, for me, that meathead kind of like push the limit type of trainer. Well, anyway, my digestive system all of a sudden went really bad. Now, I'd always kind of, had some digestive issues here and there. Okay. But it went really bad, and it wasn't going away. Mm-hmm. I lost almost 15 pounds of lean body mass. At one point, they were testing me for Crohn's. They don't know what the hell was going on.
It's not that bad, by the way.
Yeah. Well, we had no idea. Okay. Yeah. But for somebody who's built this persona and shell of a body, this was like the worst possible thing that could happen. I'm supposed to be this fitness guy. I'm supposed to be this trainer. I'm supposed to understand health. And I can't figure this out. None of my tricks were working. So at this point, I took my practitioners, the people that rented space in my studio, I sat them down and we had a meeting, and I said, I don't know what to do. I can't figure this out. I will do whatever you tell me. I'm ready to just submit and do whatever you tell me. And they said, okay, we're going to do some gut testing. We're going to do some hormone testing. You're going to revamp your workout. You're going to work out. Your workouts are going to work out way less. You're going to get better sleep. We're going to incorporate meditation, which to me was like sitting quietly. Oh my God. And so I did. I did all those. I had no choice, or at least it felt that way. So I did all those things. I stopped weighing myself. I stopped paying attention to the weight on the bar. I avoided looking in the mirror. These were all triggers. And I just said, I want to be healthy. I just need health, strength, being ripped, whatever. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. And I did that for an entire year. And at the end of that year, there was this moment. I went to one of my coworkers' homes. She had a pool party and we were all hanging out. So after about a year of doing all this, I'm starting to feeling good and I'm not as reactive with foods and I'm, fully feeling just like, okay, I'm feeling good, but still avoiding the mirror, avoiding the scale. Like I'm still doing this.
Yes.
We're at her house and we're all hanging out and I went to use the restroom and the way that her bathroom was configured, there was a mirror that would reflect off another mirror. And I took a glance over and I saw a reflection of myself. Because it was an angle I'm not used to, for a split second, I looked at myself as if I was someone else. So I didn't have that judgment. I didn't have that when we look at ourselves, we tend to, right?
Yep.
It was objective. And I looked and I was like, whoa. And then I looked in the mirror and I allowed myself to really check out how everything was looking. And I realized I looked better than I'd ever looked. And then just like an epiphany, wow, the best way to look good is to be as healthy as possible. Mm-hmm. And I talk about this on my show all the time. And that was a very important turning moment for me. Again, pivotal in the voice you hear on my podcast. Yes.
Well, that's very similar. So in finance, we call that compounding your goodwill, which is the most valuable asset on planet Earth. And it's a weird line item on a balance sheet because people are like, what is it? Because it's the difference between what something is worth and what someone's willing to pay, which is like, okay, well, what is it? But in life, it's your character. So I always tell people and our fans, because they're like, how do you make so much money, right? And how do you compound your wealth? It's like, hey, the more you compound your goodwill, the revenue and the finance and success will follow. It's no different than your health. You compound your health, you're going to look good after the fact. That's right. Which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun seeing all these parallels?
Yeah. It's, I talk about fitness like this all the time.
Yeah. Now, what changed? Because you obviously talked about your mindset regarding fitness and health. What changed at that moment regarding your mindset with personal finance and investing, if it did?
It hadn't changed anything with financing and investing. The way that I approached money for a long time, remember, my parents were poor Sicilian immigrants.
Right.
And so what I learned from them was work, don't spend your money and save, which is, that was the first lessons. This is the first
pretty good lesson.
Yeah. Like a lot of people don't figure that out, right? Don't go into debt, save your money. You can't afford it, don't buy it.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. That's what I did for a long time. Good. I saved, I lived well, below my means, never went into debt. And of course, in hindsight, like, oh my God, I could have invested in all these different things. But that's how I approached, things. Very conservative with my money. However, when it came to business or taking risks with going out and trying different things in business, I always have, taken a lot of risk.
Sure.
If I believe in myself, I'll go out and make that happen.
Yeah.
My approach now to finance is similar but different. I'm still relatively conservative.
Sure.
Risky with business, conservative with the money that I do make. But now I'm surrounded by some pretty brilliant individuals who, have helped take me to the next level with that.
Yeah. Can I alter your vocabulary a little bit? So instead of conservative or aggressive, I want you to think of one thing for the rest of your life when it comes to money.
All right.
Prudency.
Okay.
As long as you're prudent. Because one of the things that, I'm not going to vent, okay, because this is all about you, but I got to get this out because you poked the bear. When people have conservative or aggressive feelings about money, it's an emotion. And that is actually, statistically speaking, the second leading killer in net worth accumulation and net worth preservation in retirement. Number one being divorce, and I can't really help people there, right? Although we did have a divorce attorney on our show, so you could call the prenup guy. But when it comes to being prudent, you remove the emotion and then you're just acting almost like on the spectrum when it comes to rationality.
Yeah, perfect. I like that.
Yeah, so you're welcome.
I was prudent.
Okay. Now, I'm assuming you're still running the business at this time when your health was in flux. And how did you balance that? Because from what I've gathered in the time that we've known each other, when you become passionate about something, it's almost an unhealthy obsession, and you concentrate on that thing. So you've got your business over here where you can't let the business fail, but then you've got your health, which you're all in on. So how did you balance all of that?
That wasn't hard because it was my gym, my studio. I could have my own food there. I trained people. So that wasn't hard. But I wasn't balanced anywhere else. If I'm being quite honest with you, I worked too much and put too much energy and effort into that, and not enough into my family, which is a whole nother story. So balance was not in my vocabulary whatsoever. It was all there and very little anywhere else. Well,
for better or worse, we might poke that bear a little bit later on in the show. Now, I want to start getting into what people know as the Sal of today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And from my research, the first person you connected with who sparked what is now Mind Pump is obviously your trusted CFO and producer, Doug Eggy. Doug.
There it is.
And you actually had an entire episode on this. And for my listeners, go to Mind Pump. Just look up Doug Eggy interview. It's fantastic. And Doug, we're going to have to get you on the show. Even though you're a Husky, I don't hold that against you. But when you guys got together, it started off as Doug being your client, right? So what was the moment that you and Doug realized that you could create this business that is Mind Pump today? Or was it that even the original intention?
No, it was Doug actually. So Doug was my client. He'd, in his words, he'd say he got good results from working with me, and he liked the way that I presented things and talked about things. And he had some experience with internet marketing as a hobby. It's not what he did for a living. He sold insurance, but as a hobby, he liked to learn about a lot of different things. He's got a lot of hobbies, but internet marketing was one of them.
Got it.
So he approached me and he said, Sal, he literally said, you remind me of a young Tony Robbins, which was like a huge compliment. Like, oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, if you ever want to sell anything online, let me know because I have some internet marketing experience. So I said, wow, okay, that sounds kind of cool. A week later, I was up late one night in a hypomanic episode. I was reading the the New England Journal of Medicine, read this study, long story short, wrote up the first program, which we still sell today, MAPS Anabolic.
Yep.
Brought that to him and said, I'd like to sell this. And he said, cool. So here's what we need to do. We need to get you on video. We need to put together some marketing material. We need to create landing pages. None of the stuff that I didn't understand any of this stuff.
Yeah.
He had the equipment. He had the cameras, the whole deal. And that was the beginning of it. Mind Pump was still not even a thought.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what Mind Pump is today.
No.
Yeah.
What we had said was, let's create this marketing material. Let's start marketing online, but we need to build some authority because people don't know of you outside of the Bay Area.
Right.
So our ideas were a book or blogs or podcasts. And it turned out we went with the podcast route.
Yeah. Smart. Well, and so when you two committed to this idea, did you just go all in or did you sell your business? Was it a gradual transition? What did that look like?
No, because I had a family to support. So I couldn't just leave what I was doing. But we did go all in creating this. I mean, I remember him and I would meet on the weekend for 10 hours and we'd close the studio and black out the windows and set up whatever green screen and do put this product together. Awesome. And then on the back end, he was creating the modules and the whole deal. So we created all that and we started internet marketing. And at that time, that's when I met Adam, who's my co-host. And then that's when the discussion started around starting a podcast.
Got it. And so, you're obviously the creator of the fitness program. Doug was on the marketing side. We've established that. It's one thing to know that you've got something awesome, but it's a whole nother ball game to actually make money from it.
Yeah.
So my question, and our listeners love hearing these types of stories, but it's going to be a pretty quick one, I think. How long did it take for your momentum to really start to compound into a profitable enterprise?
When we started the podcast, pretty quickly when we launched the podcast, we had made the new and notable section on iTunes, which highlights top podcasts that are new.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember that because I'm training a client and my phone is buzzing like crazy. And I finally answer it and it's Adam. He's like, get on iTunes, check out whatever. And I look at, oh my God. But we waited for a year before we asked for a single dollar from our audience. We wanted to build value. We wanted to build trust and authority. And we waited until people asked us, hey, do you guys have something I can buy? Is there a way I can give you money? Literally, this were the emails we were getting. Like, do you have a t-shirt? Can I donate to your Patreon? Like, what are you guys doing? That's when we knew, let's launch the program, which we'd already created. It was already done, ready to go. So it was a year after Mind Pump was on air. We had built an audience. We'd gotten that trust. We provided value that we launched MAPS Anabolic. And then right away, that first month, I don't remember, we think we did $30,000 or $40,000 in sales and just
holy smokes,
workout program. Mm-hmm.
That is super cool. So how long was it just the two of you? So like, when was it that you brought on your first employee?
Oh God. It was just Doug, myself, Justin, Adam for a while. I think we brought on, I would say, when did we bring Katrina on? It might have been like year 2, 3. So probably second or third year.
Okay.
Yeah. Doug did everything in those early days.
Yeah.
Everything.
Good
I
for
mean, we
you,
were the
Doug.
show. We were the show and some social media, and Doug managed the whole deal.
Okay.
And then we brought on Katrina, and it was just us for a while.
But technically it was the two of you, and then like Adam came on, right?
Adam and Justin.
At the same time.
Yes.
Okay.
Adam and Justin were already business partners in another venture. And I met both of them at the same time. And then that's when we started the podcast.
Got it. Okay. All right. That makes sense. But that was a lot sooner, because I thought it was a couple of years that was just the two of you, and then Adam and Justin.
Doug and I had MAPS Anabolic and worked on it for almost a year before we started Mind Pump.
Okay. So then you've got the Mount Rushmore all complete of Mind Pump. Okay. You guys can use that for the future, by the way.
I think we have, in fact. I think
you have
like that a long time ago.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you can bring it back.
Okay.
So I don't take credit for it, but for Mind Pump. So what was the original business model for you guys? And more importantly, what worked initially and what didn't work?
The original business model was podcast and then point to a sales page where we sold our fitness programs. And that was it. It was nothing else. We didn't capture emails.
Okay.
We didn't do anything. It was literally, we would do the show and then we would point to, hey, if you want to follow our fitness programs type of deal, go to our website.
Yeah.
And you go there, and it was literally a landing page to buy the fitness program that you want to buy. And then we launched MAPS Performance, and then MAPS Aesthetic. And it wasn't until probably the third year that we hired a marketing team and we started capturing emails, and then we really started to, to grow.
Yeah, well, we might hit you up after this because we're in that stage right now.
Okay.
So my brother and I are having a ton of fun with that. And I can feel him smiling right behind me as we're going through this. Now, what was the most challenging hurdle for you to jump over for the business to succeed?
Initially, it was selling my gym and doing this full time because I had, when
Your
you're
family?
young. Well, when I tell people when they're young and they're like, "Oh, I want to start a business," and whatever, like, "Do you have kids? Do you have a wife?" No. Go do it. Like, there's no reason why, even if you fail miserably, like, move in with your parents, get back on your feet, try again.
Yes.
When I had 2 kids, I had a mortgage and a wife. So that was a bit scary. Like, okay, I'm going to leave this, income, sell this, and then start this brand new kind of crazy idea. But, like I said, once we launched the program, it was pretty, the writing was on the wall. It's like, this is obviously crushing. Let's do this. Yeah.
Was there ever a moment that you thought it may not work out?
Right in the very beginning, I've told the story many times, we had another host. We had a 4th host, and he had the social media following. So that was a lot of the value. We're like, okay, this is how we're going to get our start. He has 30,000 followers on Instagram or whatever at the time.
Yeah.
And we had recorded 15 episodes with the original Mind Pump episodes. We were about to launch them, and I believe it was like 2 days before the launch. He calls us up and says, "Sorry, guys, I got to back out. My sponsors don't like what we're talking about on these episodes," because we were all about supplement industry, just tries to sell pills and whatever. His sponsor was supplement company.
Oh, conflict of interest.
Yeah. So there were so we recorded, edited, boom, 15 episode, had to scratch them. I got the text, and I've told the story many times.
Yeah.
Hype myself up to get on a call with Justin, Adam, and Doug to convince them to start over. That's what I thought. I'm gonna have to convince them that we got to keep doing this. And before a single word can come out of my mouth, Adam gets, we got to F that. We got to get whatever. Justin's like, let's do this. So I'm like, all right. So, I that was actually the first time that's when I first realized, like, these are the guys that I want to work with.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting now that I finally have gotten to meet all of you today. Cause, for the listeners at home, mine and yours, you're a public figure, but they don't know you. But then you come in here. No, it's the real deal, right? Yeah. Like you've got Justin, Adam, they're just gung ho, ready to go, right? You're leading the charge, and then Doug's basically corralling the cats of the emotion. It's pretty fun to watch. Yeah. I got to tell you that.
Yeah, we're not media guys, so we used to hear this all the time. It was always weird to hear this. Like people would meet us and they go, "You guys are just like you sound on the show." I'm like, "How else would we be?"
Yeah.
But there's media is media, and there's a lot of media people, and I've met a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of them are not what they seem at all.
Yeah.
Whereas we ran businesses for, a decade and a half, 2 decades. We've been doing this for a long time. We weren't kids. Media wasn't what we were excited about. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like we wanted to be, influencers or whatever. So we didn't know any other way to be than just be ourselves. So when you meet us, it's the same.
Yes.
We're just, what you hear is what you get. It's the same on the shows.
Well, and even like when we were texting back and forth, which, by the way, I was going to say this at the beginning, but then we just got into it. So I'm going to say it now. For your listeners that don't know you, obviously behind the scenes, we were introduced by Dr. Rand. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you actually know this, the day that we started texting was 2 days after I got out of the hospital.
Oh, I don't know.
I ended up losing like half my blood. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. So I was I was a little tired. So, but what I respect the heck out of you with is you took the time, because let's face it, my podcast is not Mind Pump. I'd like to be there someday with finance. That's what I'm striving for. But you took the time to get to know who I was. You told me, hey, someone from my team's going to reach out. Ava reached out. To her credit, she coordinated everything. We've texted back and forth, and you didn't have to do that. And it's very rare to see someone that has grown to the stature in this side of the podcasting world like you guys have be that sincere. So I really appreciate that.
Well, we were connected by a mutual friend. So yeah. I would not disrespect him. I don't know. I didn't know you, but
right.
But you know, Dr. Rand's a great guy. We love him.
Yes.
So he personally recommended you. So
yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's the way you're supposed to be in life. I don't know. I think people treat it differently all of a sudden with business and media.
Yes.
But like I said, we're not media guys at all. I mean, we can present ourselves in that media now, 9 years later.
Yes.
It's only taken 2,000 episodes, but
yeah.
And we don't really jive well with people who aren't like that anyway.
I gathered that. Yeah. Well, and so you guys have obviously built quite a successful business and brand for yourself, even though you're not a media guy, you kind of are now. Mm-hmm. And so, we're going to be diving more into like nitty gritty business nerdy stuff when I interview Adam in a little bit. So I'm going to save some of that. Yeah. But I got to ask you, did you ever dream that you were going to have this life that you have now?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. I'd be lying. Look, every entrepreneur has this narcissistic side, and I don't mean this in the negative, but there's a healthy side of narcissism where you have to kind of believe you can do it. Otherwise, why would you? So entrepreneurs dream. We like to dream.
Yes.
So yes, I thought we would do great. No, because I didn't really know, but I felt it. Yeah. I felt like I would, but I've always felt like that no matter what I did.
Yeah, of course.
Even if I was wrong. So, but I will say this, it does feel like a dream.
Yeah.
It does feel like a very strange, when I was training people in my early 20s, I remember distinctly thinking this, like, I wish I could just talk about fitness and get free supplements and make money doing it, you know?
Yeah.
And here I am.
Yeah.
Like I get more by the way, I have a really bad relationship with supplements. For people who listen to my show, they know this, right? Yes. I got this weird, Like I get more supplements sent to me than I know what to do with because
course.
companies constantly want to work with us.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
And then I get to talk about my favorite subject, and I get to talk to guys I like to hang out with.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're going to pay me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Twist
Cool.
my arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
And there's nothing better, like fitness people. If you're not deep into the fitness world, you do not understand this feeling. But like, remember back in the day, bodybuilding.com, when it was just exploding, like I would get, not only would you order stuff, but you would order like a tub of protein, and they basically sent you an equivalent of just free stuff. And then I get a call from like Anavar Adam or, Buff Dude Billy, like, hey, just making sure you got your stuff, Chris. I'm like, you know my name? You're like, yeah, member 84. It's the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And in the supplement industry, that's kind of gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
So you're still holding on to that nostalgic dream. So I'm very jealous.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with the fitness industry. A lot of it can be driven by insecurities. It could be it could prey on people. It can sell people the wrong idea and teach people the wrong things. But it's also full of people that really care and really want to help others. And it also is the only industry that is that has the potential to solve the chronic health issues that plague modern society. And I don't say that lightly. Like we are, we're always inundated with fear. You got to be scared about this, scared about that, scared. Like if you actually look at the data,
of course,
if you actually look at the data, what threatens to bankrupt Western societies more than anything and kill us is poor health. Period. End of story. Chronic health issues, infertility, which is also poor health. And think of all the downstream effects that causes. Think about the consumption habits of unhealthy people versus healthy people. Oh, yeah. So that drives markets. Think of the confidence, the attitude, the mood, productivity, inspiration, creativity, marriage, raising your kids, being like good health improves everything. Bad health makes everything much worse. And again, if you look at the data, look at autoimmune diseases, chronic health issues, diabetes, cancer, obesity and related diseases. If you look at depression and anxiety, which is now also exploding among children, look at fertility. We're 2 generations away from being infertile. Okay. You look at all that, and then you look at who has the solutions. What industry? It's not the medical industry. They obviously don't. It's the fitness and health industry. Now, I'm not saying it's going to solve it, but the answers are in there. Yeah. And there are people in that industry that really genuinely want to help. So, so it's a complicated relationship with the industry, but at the end of the day, it's my industry and I love it.
Oh yeah. Well, and I tell people all the time in finance, because finance can get blown up in a negative light for obvious reasons. You go to 2008, Bernie Madoff, and like the mortgage subprime loans that were absolute garbage. But I tell people, you think finance can be dark? Go to fitness. Because like you mentioned, the insecurities I have seen just competing in drug-free bodybuilding, some of these people, guys and girls, the most beautiful physiques in the world, and inside they're basically the Walking Dead. You have so insecure.
No, it's that you have more eating disorders, body dysmorphia issues in my space than any other space. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah. And unfortunately, the people that get all the views and clicks tend to be the sickest people. And so they're communicating the information the average person's listening to. Our goal from day one with Mind Pump was to counter that, was to shift the fitness industry and show everybody in the space you can do it the right way and make a lot of money doing it the right way. And you and the average consumer will want to hear it. We just have to sell it better than the bad guys. Yeah. That's what we're showing.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're doing with finance. It's like, hey, you just got to level up your intelligence a little bit by keeping up the compounding of your knowledge, and you're going to get there. Cool. Now, you and Mind Pump, you guys are actually starting to diversify. There's that term that I absolutely love. Indirectly outside of fitness. Yep. Doug and I were actually talking before how, you guys have even mentioned financial literacy, and then just like the absolute truth of everything. And that actually brings to top of mind your interview with Jordan Peterson. Yeah. I think it was a couple months ago. Yes, at this point. Yeah. Having a 1-year-old at home, weeks, months, they all kind of,
it's all melts together.
Yeah. What was it like interviewing him, and what were the greatest lessons you took away from Jordan Peterson?
That was cool because personally, I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson.
Sure.
He was
Same.
instrumental in my spiritual path. In fact, he really helped propel me in that direction. It was just from a personal standpoint, it was awesome. Did the episode do much for the business? No. And interviews never do, typically don't for us, but sitting down with him, talking to him, asking him questions, seeing how he operates. He's very intelligent, very intense, also very human.
Yeah.
He's troubled and plagued like all of us. And you can feel that inside of him, which is part of the reason why I think he's constantly seeking for truth and to be able to communicate information better. But it was cool. It was cool to sit across and get to meet him. I mean, again, I get to do this job where I get to meet these people. When would I ever meet him?
Right.
And any other way. So I get to sit down with him, and he invited us to his ARC event in London. That's how we initially got connected.
That's right.
Yeah. He ran that whole thing in London. It was us, and Max Lugavere was the other health person.
Yes. Love Max.
Everybody else was were leaders, and like there were hedge fund managers. There were people from Parliament in Australia and the UK. We had some Republican Congress people there.
Yeah.
It was and then you had Mind Pump, fitness podcasts. It was pretty wild.
Yeah. No, it was pretty cool. And I can't remember, did Jordan, when you were interviewing him, because one thing I've noticed too is, and he's spoken about this indirectly, and he says it so much more eloquently than I do, or frankly, any of us can. He's letting his emotion seep out a lot more. Yeah. Right. Did he break down at all when he was describing anything to you guys? Okay.
No, he didn't. But you can feel.
You can feel the pain.
Yeah. I at one point, I think I asked him off air. I said, "Is your inner turmoil kind of what drives you?" And he kind of said, "Yeah." I think that some of the smartest people in the world are ones that are struggling with their personal demons, and they're constantly overcoming them, and that's what makes them so proficient. In their space.
Yeah. Well, people always think they're like, "Oh my gosh, I want to be successful." In many cases, I'd be a hypocrite if I said, no, you don't. But people don't think about what comes with that.
Well, what do you think? What do you mean successful? I mean,
but that's what I'm saying.
You want to be rich?
Yeah.
Or do you want to be? Do you want to have joy and be happy? I mean, I don't know. I mean, you ever listen to Elon Musk interviews?
Yeah.
He's a billionaire. I mean, one of the greatest entrepreneurs probably ever, but definitely of our time.
Yes.
Very, very, incredible inner turmoil.
Yes.
He struggles with it daily.
Yeah.
Would you want to be in that mind and that body? I don't know. I don't think so.
There's actually a really good podcast. So I went on the Millennial Investing Podcast, which is part of the Investors Podcast Network. And Clay Fink just did an episode where he basically went over Elon Musk's life. You need to check it out because it was one of the most comprehensive Elon Musk life episodes I've ever heard. And, you mentioned Elon. This isn't going to turn into Elon Musk show, but even from the beginning, I kind of feel sad even thinking about this, almost destined for that, in many ways, sad life. I mean, because one, he has been on the spectrum and he's very open about that. So there's a lot of wirings in his brain that we don't have that.
Right.
I couldn't imagine waking up one day and saying, okay, well, I've got to go run Twitter or X, and then I got to hop over to Tesla, and then I got to hop over to Neuralink, and then I've got to take care of my 12 kids. Yeah. I can't imagine that. Now, for you in Mind Pump, what are the main goals for you guys for the next 10 years, and what are the main goals for you specifically for the next 10 years?
For the next 10 years, we'd really like to continue to deliver more value to the people that already listen to us. And we'd love to influence the fitness industry now from the inside, coaches and trainers. They're the ones that are really communicating to people and changing lives. We would like to shift and continue to shift the fitness. I can see now in social media messages that we started years ago. So I can see now our influence is starting to come through. I'd like to continue doing that. And at some point, I'd like to be a company that allows other people up and coming to use our platform as a way to sift out and say, okay, you're doing a great job. This is the kind of message that needs to be told. Use our platform, put it out there. So producing other content, but also working less. All of us at some point would like to maybe do less episodes at some point in the future and meet up once a week, hang out, have some great podcasts, and let the business kind of kind of run itself.
Yes.
But now for me personally, 10 years from now, I'd love to be traveling a lot. My wife and I talk a lot about this. I have two younger kids, a 3-year-old and a 15-month-old.
Yep.
And I'd love to live in different places every 6 months or so.
Yeah.
We're going to homeschool them, and I'd love for them to experience what it's like to live on an island.
Yes.
In the mountains.
In Tacoma, Washington.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know about that. That's not on the list, but I'll take a look.
Yeah, maybe it's in the footnotes,
Yeah,
Well, and I'm going to pick your brain at the homeschooling thing, because that's grown in popularity leaps and skyrocketed.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Weird. I wonder why.
Yeah, weird. Yes. Well, so before we bring this interview on home, okay, which, by the way, I could talk to you for hours, but, shocker, you're a very busy man and in high demand. I have a few more questions for you. One of them is selfish towards my personal situation, and then a couple our listeners are dying to know. So you just mentioned that you have you said a 15-month-old?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, because Abby's 13, so you're 2 months ahead. So congratulations.
Thank
I know
you.
it's a little
Same to
delayed.
you.
Thank you. So, with you and Jessica balancing, your wife balancing this life, what are the best pieces of business advice you can give to young families?
Oh gosh, be efficient. Be efficient with your time. The same message I give to people with health and fitness. You have 15 steps you could take or directions you can move. Do the one that gives you the most bang for your buck, because you don't want to trade too much time from your family for your work if it's not going to give you more time later with your family. You just don't want to do that. It's not a worthwhile trade. I learned that lesson the hard way with my older kids. So be efficient. Don't do things that are going to take up a lot of time and give you a little bit of return. Focus on the things that you can spend some time on that'll give you the most return. And I think this is true for money as well. Like, I could work more hours to make more money, or I could find a way to make that money make money for me. So it's very similar. So just try to be as efficient as possible, I would say. Yeah. And before you have kids, before you start a family, this is the time you grind and take those risks. This is when you go and see what you're made of. Yeah.
You set the compounding foundation up early.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what have been some of the best personal finance, investing, and business strategies you have used to capitalize on your finances?
The best decision I ever made was combining my investments with my business partners, so that we could leverage our money and kind of spread out the risk. I'm lucky that I get to work with very like-minded business partners. None of us are, want to pay ourselves more so we could buy the fancy whatever.
Yeah.
We're all very much like, let's see what we can do with this money. And our initial investments were very prudent, using that word that you said.
You're welcome.
Where we've invested in real estate that has paid us an income. So it's kind of like easy place to park your money.
Yeah.
And then as that's done, as that's proven to do well, moving up the ladder towards things that are a little bit more, maybe less prudent. So we bought a property that we outfitted with a bunch of fitness tools and hacks, like red light therapy and cold dip and a gym. So now it's an Airbnb. So we went from long-term rental to short-term rental. So now you could go rent this place up in the mountains, and in there are all the things that we talk about on the show. So you go in there and you could optimize your health and fitness while skiing or whatever.
Yes.
So that'll be another direction that we end up going. But best thing I did was partner with people who do it better than I do.
That is fantastic. Now, unfortunately, we have to wrap this thing up, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. Now, where can our listeners go to best follow and support you and Mind Pump?
Just find Mind Pump, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you can find podcasts. We're going to be there. So just listen to the show, and hopefully we'll help you out.
Awesome. As always, thank you for joining me today. If you have questions about today's episode or any personal finance questions, please reach out to me at Cap and Capitalize on Instagram, Chris at capitalizeyourfinances.com, or via our website, capitalizepodcast.com. If you want more Capitalize Your Finances content, head on over to capitalizepodcast.com and check out our blog, free resources, book, and online course. As always, I'm your host, Chris Frey-Panayiotou, Certified Financial Planning Professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And until next time, keep capitalizing.
You should always seek counsel of the appropriate advisor prior to making any investment decision. All investments are subject to risk, including the loss of principal. Christopher Paniotu is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor and member FINRA SIPC. The investment professionals are affiliated with LPL Financial and are conducting business using the name Capitalize Your Finances, a separate entity from LPL Financial. Sal Di Stefano and any other individual or company mentioned in this podcast are not affiliated with Capitalize Your Finances or LPL Financial.